Hello, today we ask Reddit what are some subtle signs that someone has low intelligence. Make sure to comment anything I may have missed or your own opinion. I look forward to reading them. I don't want to waffle on any longer as this thread was quite interesting. With that, sit back and enjoy. Buying a new car when you're broke AF. Dude, yes. I have a friend who is broke AF, already barely making ends meet. What does she do a few months ago? Buy a truck. When gas is $5 a gallon. Now she can't even afford to take her kid to the dentist when he has cavities so bad his teeth hurt. Pisses me off to see, honestly. This is shockingly common. My friend's brother will complain about how groceries are so expensive that they can't afford to fill their pantry, but drives an $80,000 Dodge Ram even though they already owned a new minivan and 2 work trucks. He recently had to pull his kid out of hockey because he couldn't afford it, but he's out there blaming Justin Trudeau and not the $80,000 truck that takes $300 in gas a week and costs $500 per month to insure. Lack of curiosity. You ever had to train or work with someone who just has no desire to know anything beyond what you're telling them or the why behind what they're doing? Every instruction needs to be laid out in painstaking detail? If an issue arises, there's no desire to understand why or attempt to fix it, they just error out and stand there waiting for instruction? It's like programming a computer, but the computer is a human potato. This comment hurts. Man cannot remake himself without suffering, for he is both the programmer and the potato. This here is the one. And, being proud about not knowing it as well. Like people who want you to feel bad because you know a big word. I was once fired from a job in part because I would ask follow-up questions so I understood why the procedures worked. I was told it was condescending to my coworkers. It's a common side effect of being curious. The uncurious think you're being rude. Inability to see from another perspective. 100% so true. They just can't comprehend what you're trying to convey. I'm an engineer and I worked with a seemingly backwoods older guy, late 50s, couldn't use Excel for shit. Read the Drudge Report every morning in oil and gas. Literally one of the first things he said to me was, "So what do you think of the gays?" Lol. I'm Indian and was like, oh great, here we go. He started asking about my culture and the Browns and stuff, but eventually I realized he was genuinely curious, but he just didn't know how to present his questions more respectfully. Once I realized he was just trying to learn in his own way, I warmed up to him and became friends. Yeah, he would randomly drop lines where I'd laugh and be like, dude, you can't say shit like that, but he was inherently a good person. Took good care of his family, tried giving me fatherly advice since I'm close to his son's age, shit like that. I guess the best way to describe him would be, innocently ignorant. He didn't know he was being racist or sexist or whatever, but he started checking himself when myself or our colleagues would say something to him. Worked with him for 8 years and never had a problem. Sometimes people are just not self-aware enough, but most of the time they are just assholes. You can either be open enough to listen to their side or just ignore them. I think people are confusing signs of low intelligence with signs of being an asshole. Sometimes people are assholes simply because they cannot logic their way out of it. A wise man speaks because he has something to say, a fool speaks because he has to say something. People who confuse their opinions with facts. To add, people who think they know everything are generally pretty stupid. Smart people will defer questions to qualified and experienced individuals because they are acutely aware of their own limitations, and that's what helps make them smart. They're not scared to admit they lack knowledge in certain topics or fields. And they will learn from that more experienced person to add to their library of knowledge and experience. Stupid people don't know they're stupid. They think they know everything, and won't seek out more experienced people and admit to their limitations, admit they don't know duck all about certain things. To add, I think intelligence in a large part is achieved through curiosity. If you think you already know everything, you are no longer curious. Your knowledge is then stuck in the state it was in when you decided to stop learning new things. Not understanding hypothetical questions. Weirdest thing a fellow programmer has ever said to me is, I don't do hypotheticals. Hell, 90% of the job is thinking about hypotheticals. What if this field had that value and then this method is called, etc. That's the kind of thinking that a programmer is doing all the time. But not that guy, I guess. What if there were no hypothetical scenarios? I took many programming classes in university, but I also took a philosophy class. In that class we did a week on Boolean logic. It was incredible watching the philosophy students trying to understand the hypotheticals involved with a simple Boolean and operation. They'd be saying things like, "But what if it's not true?" and the instructor would point to the line in the truth table showing that situation, and the philosophy students would look like it was rocket surgery. Thinking people speaking a second language imperfectly means the person is stupid. If I ever get frustrated trying to understand someone speaking broken English, I just remember that they're doing better at speaking English than I'd be at speaking their native language. Like the PhD students from Asia when I was in uni. Not only are they conducting scientific experiments on their own, but doing a chunk of it in a foreign language. So much respect. Man, my supervisor was trained in Japan but has worked and lived in North America for over 20 years at this point. He speaks with a heavy accent and doesn't understand a lot of expressions. His conversations are often disjointed. Unless the topic is his own field. Suddenly his speech is eloquent and nuanced and animated. I can write an email in a minute that would take him in half an hour to compose, and even then he would need to clarify something later. But writing an academic paper in English? Suddenly he's a wordsmith and it all just flows in just the right way. I'm intimidated by the thought that he'd be even more proficient in Japanese. Thinking their opinion or perspective is also everyone else's, thinking, no one does that, because they don't do that. Everyone puts their cereal at the top of the pantry, that's just where it goes. My sister. Yeah, not me. I've always put mine on top of the fridge. Not understanding analogies very well. Yeah, it's like when you tell someone an analogy and they don't get it. They're probably not the brightest knife in the shed. Hey, people in glass houses sink ships. Analogy. That's like a trilogy but with more anal, right? It's like a thought, with another thought's hat on. They have a conspicuously small spread of skills for such a high-level wizard. All I need is fireball. If someone disagrees, fireball. If someone agrees, fireball. If someone is ambivalent, fireball. You would not believe it, but spell slots open at the end of the day, fireball. Whenever I have a problem I just cast fireball and then I have a completely different problem. Mocking or making fun of people who want to learn more or get a higher education. To piggyback on this, people who mock others who are intelligent but weren't able to get a higher education. Assuming that they can't be intelligent unless they followed the traditional education path. Yep. I know a guy who seems to think that intelligence comes from, like, how much trivia you've memorized. Like, no, I can't name all the US presidents in order. That doesn't mean I'm a moron. I've noticed that the dumber someone is, the dumber they assume everyone else is. Smarter people will often try to see the other side of an argument, assuming there's nothing else at play, like low self-esteem. People with lower intelligence often assume that people who disagree with them are simply dumb because they imagine their arguments to be dumb. Likewise, people that lie, steal, cheat, etc. also tend to assume everyone else does or would given the chance. Got in an argument on Reddit where they told me there was no way either of us would know something because we weren't scientists and because of that can't make any claims. When I corrected them that I actually was a published scientist that has taught for over a decade, they blocked me. One of my classmates is like that. She also doesn't believe that the Earth is a sphere because, how could they know that? She told me this the days after they taught us at geography exactly how, but does believe that it's flat just because, her words, many other people believe so. She also believes that it's true that mushrooms can talk. Edit. Just to clarify things, she believes that mushrooms can talk words like we humans can. She even specified that some scientists have proved that mushrooms know about 50 words. I don't even know how does that work. And thanks to the people who told me about how mushrooms actually communicate, I didn't know that. Not capable of understanding a nuanced point. I think the complete opposite, and there is no middle ground. Uses only empty buzzwords in their conversations. I've got a coworker who only communicates in phrases like situational awareness and following breadcrumbs, and asks for meetings to amplify our synergy. This person was promoted beyond their level of competence and has no idea how to do the job. I do love the term situation awareness though. Some people truly lack it. This term was thrown around a lot in my military days. My fiancé and I speak to each other in corporate, when someone uses a buzzword and we want to make light-hearted fun of each other. Let's take that offline. Can we table this discussion? Can we circle back? Drill down. I'll correspond with you on that. The inability to extrapolate from missing. Edit, and apparently the inability to perform error correction while reading. Missing what? There are two types of people in this world. Those who can extrapolate from incomplete data. Obsessing over an IQ score. Yes. I had a guy in college who kept bragging he has an IQ of 110. I was like, dude. Best part is that for college graduates that is 5 points below average. Using too many words to explain a simple concept or story. Dumbing it down actually requires some hardcore brainpower at times. I don't think that's a sign of low intelligence, though. Many very accomplished and well-read people are poor communicators. It's rather that having the ability to dumb things down is a sign of even higher intelligence. I'll be the first to admit, I had no idea how hard dumbing things down was until I had children. Like, how do I dumb down how to pour cereal? They ask so many questions that are amazingly simple for me to know, but super difficult to explain. Getting sucked into the easy and fast money scheme du jour. MLMs, NFTs, pyramid schemes, investments. You name it. I think it's worth mentioning that a lot of this stuff preys on vulnerable groups of people. For example, with regards to MLMs, they largely target young mothers from conservative cultures with no tertiary education who have been disconnected from the labor force for a long time. MLMs market themselves as a way for such people who often feel alienated from the professional workforce to be employed outside the domestic realm and to work with people like them. Joining an MLM is a very emotional decision rather than a logical one, which is why it can seem stupid when you don't resonate with those emotional needs because on paper it just looks like a bad deal. Judging an idea or concept based purely upon some people who follow it, and not the concept itself. For example, believing veganism as a concept is bad just because you had a bad experience with a vegan. It's subtle because people do this all the time with everything. Making arguments that mislead others by only showing the bad apples to support an illusion that the thing as a whole is also bad. Believing anything they read on social media. So should I believe you or? With that, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for sticking around this long, and I hope I deserve a like and subscribe. If I have managed to miss something or you want to share your own story, comment it down below. I look forward to read them. Until next time.